But I blame ConnectWise for a lot of this. I really do. I think ConnectWise had good intentions. And, when they bought a company called Continuum, they turned the ConnectWise PSA tool into this master service provider. And I think it was a disaster. I think they should have never done that crap. And so then they looked at this print channel and they got so damn excited about it, and they've been excited about it for 10 or 15 years. They've had like 19 different people heading that up as a liaison between copy and IT. It's just a disaster. I don't care what they say. And they can stand on stage and they're going to say that our biggest customers are print customers. Well, what are you counting the revenue? Are you counting the revenue that they're delivering through IT in those offices? Because I would agree, if a print provider shows up in a room with 1,000 IT providers, he's going to be the biggest company, but he's probably going to be the smallest one in IT. So I just think we stand on stage and we put panels together. We lie through our teeth to each other. We try to make everybody feel good. We throw awards out like they're popcorn.
And I'm really happy to have Ray with us here today. Ray, how did you find yourself in this crazy MSP technology space?
I got lost on the way to Relevance. No, just kidding. I grew up in the print space, and I had the opportunity to work with a print dealer who was transitioning his business into an IT services company. I spent a couple years with him and saw an amazing transformation, saw the benefits of IT services being delivered, and became obsessed with that, and also became obsessed with trying to help those friends of mine that are in the print space transition, because so many of them are doing so many stupid things. And I think it was a great education by far. So that's kind of why I talk about it. I guess I'm passionate to make sure if they're going to transition that they do it the way that I saw success. And they can talk about the way they're doing it is successful, but there's no track record of that anywhere. So
Understood. Okay, so did you spend a part of your career kind of just working the ranks of being in a dealership, being an MSP, just kind of working through that whole transition, or did you find yourself just really kind of getting into consulting mindset?
well, in the beginning it was really just kind of a curiosity of how a print provider, if you will, could actually transition into IT. I
Mm,
saw a lot of struggles with that. A lot of dealers want to do it, but they just absolutely struggled with it. And there's such a difference between delivering print services and IT. And it became really frustrating to watch a lot of the consultants in the space. And, the consultants in the space for IT, most of their customers are basically lifestyle businesses, are probably less than $3 or $4 million in revenue for the most part. And they come into the print space where these dealers have 50, 60, $100 million companies. And in my opinion, they're trying to help them build a little lifestyle $2 or $3 million IT company, which is just stupid and irrelevant. And it was frustrating to me. So I wanted to be screaming another alternative based on what I've experienced.
mm.
And so that's really the passion of it, because it is a tricky deliverable. And quite honestly, I believe the IT space, I've left ImageQuest out of Nashville. I've been gone almost 10 years this year, actually. And so much has changed in that space that I believe that the IT services business will be disrupted quicker than the print business, if you can believe that. I believe there's going to be a major change in the way small IT companies go into the marketplace. And quite honestly, I think a lot of them will just completely go away.
What do you think that disruption is going to be fueled by?
The lack of need. So in the IT space, these companies, most of these IT companies were built to built infrastructure. I mean, holy crap, we're running cable through buildings, we're climbing underneath a desk, we're, putting big old monitors on. I mean, just all the crap that the industry was born with. And, technology was complicated. You had my generation, the baby boomers, which were running these companies at that time, back 20 years ago. I was in my 40s. And, when I was in my 40s, we didn't know a damn thing about technology for the most part. Today, the millennials are no longer kids. They're running companies. They're 40, 45 years old. And the knowledge that they bring to those companies is so much different than the knowledge that the baby boomers brought. And quite honestly, technology has gotten simple. It's not that damn complicated. I mean, I think about, the days where you had to put in Exchange servers and you're building server rooms and you're doing all this crazy stuff. None of that exists anymore. And, I know there's probably one or two MSPs that are screaming, "Oh, I just put in a server closet last week." No, those are one-offs. That's not a global strategy. And I think when you look at the global strategy for a business, they're going to be able to receive the services they need at a much different level, and probably from a major, major corporation. I think you'll see a lot of telephony, marry technology services, if you will. And maybe as an example I use often is, maybe one day AT&T offers 365 as part of their bundle. And along with that, you get some kind of a security appliance. I mean, who knows? But to believe we're going to have these little lifestyle IT companies running around is pretty naive, I believe.
Okay, that's an interesting take, and I can't say that I disagree with you on that. One of the things is, as you were saying that came to mind, it's because MSPs traditionally have struggled on the sales side, figure out how to sell their services, how to get in front of lots of, first appointments every year, every month, every week. It's I think it's fair to say they don't hear enough of what their non-clients want and need. So they kind of get that, 20, 30, 40 customers, and that customer is locked into a way of thinking with the MSP. The MSP is getting that feedback loop of this is what customers want, this is what companies want, and then it just self-perpetuates. So I think whatever that technology disruption is, that competitor disruption, it's going to come down to who gets the voice of the prospect before the other, because it is just this really
Well, here, one of the things that Robert Stevens said, the founder of the Geek Squad, marketing is a tax you pay for being unremarkable. I just love that quote. And when I look at the MSP community, keep in mind, these are lifestyle businesses. These are $3-4 million companies for the most part. Let's forget about the what ifs and the 1%. Let's talk about the 80 or 90% of these folks. And the bottom line is, it was always the remarkability to their customer, which gave them another customer. The MSP community didn't need to have a sales force for the most part. They were selling their customer, and they were getting referred by another customer. And if you really peeled the onion back in most of those organizations, you would see that most of their customers were referred to them.
Oh yeah.
That's just the reality. And so then you come into, and the MSP space, that some of these consultants got so excited about this print channel because we have thousands of customers. I mean, a print dealer out of Chicago might have 15,000 customers. So they sit there with these consultants who say, "Oh my God, we're going to sell IT to 15,000 of your customers." And I'm going to say you're an idiot for even saying that. That's not reality. You're going to sell probably to 3 or 4% of those customers. And, each MSP has a persona of their company and their internal customers, and they have a persona for their external customers, or they should. And a lot of times, you have to determine what MSP are you going to be and who are you going to support and sell. And for the most part, the smaller MSPs, they didn't sell fee-based assessments because they just didn't think that was necessary. They would rather go give all their intellect away so they could get a $2,000 a month contract. The more mature ones were never going to go into a contract without some kind of fee-based assessment. The more mature ones that had a persona for excellence were going to go after companies that would pay them the right amount of money for the MSP themselves to be profitable and make sure that the customer was taken care of too. I mean, Josh, there's some crackpots coming into the print channel telling dealers they were going to get a 37% EBITDA. I'm like, who the hell are these people? You get a 37% EBITDA really easy, just take your $30,000 service manager and make them head for IT to, let's let your dispatchers take over your help desk. That it's just insane to me, some of the nonsense that has been spewed inside that print channel. And here we are, we're 15 years later. Where's the damn success? Where is the print dealer that sold for the big home run because he was an IT company? It doesn't exist. My buddy Milton, who I had on, the CEO of ImageQuest recently, the first question I asked him, Milton, when you sold your company to Evergreen, if we would have kept the print business as part of that deliverable instead of getting rid of it, 10 years earlier, would they have bought you? And his answer was, it would have probably been a whole different story. And my next question was, they bought 100 MSPs. Evergreen bought 100 MSPs. How many of those 100 MSPs sell print? And the answer was, well, I haven't talked to all of them, but the ones I have talked to, nobody sells print. And his assessment was that none of them do. And so we've lived in a fantasy for basically 15 years. And I know, Josh, hey, you were part of this. You're going in there and you were helping dealers understand how to navigate through ConnectWise. And, I would, be interesting to see what you say to this question. But I would imagine the very beginning, you were thinking the same line. Holy crap, these people know how to sell. These people know how to finance. These people know how to put deals together. We're going to go in there and sell all kinds of IT. And then since you thought that, you would go back at least 10 years, 12 years in this industry in the print space. What is your thought now? Am I right or am I wrong?
No, it's interesting. I did a presentation for an industry group, a copier dealer industry group, 6 months ago, and I'd been working with these copier dealers for a number of years at that point. And yeah, for sure, on day zero, I was like, oh God, you have this huge client base, you're going to peel a bunch of them off. They're going to meet the TSP or, what an ideal client profile of your MSP side. And you guys are going to kill it. And, it took a lot of kind of observation to say, oh, that's not going to be what happens. So when I got into that presentation, I did a lot of research and found almost exactly to your number of that, pull through rate of copier dealer client to MSP. And it's somewhere in that 3 to 4 or 5%, considered kind of good. Like you're doing well. You're not underserving. You're not, probably taking a lot of the people that aren't a good fit. I still can't say that I understand why, though. I know I can take out government, you can take out
Well,
schools, you can take out retail, but there's still this big block of clients. So that would fit that TCP of a high performing MSP. Why isn't that pull through rate even higher, or that conversion rate even higher?
I think it's because they haven't identified the customer.
Hmm.
They've identified product stack, which is probably inept for the most customers that they should be looking for. The
Hmm.
bottom line is you have to move upstream, and I've been screaming about this for a long damn time. You can't run around and sell $2,000 and $3,000 a month IT service contracts. It's just ridiculous. It's stupidity. You're not going to make any money if you scale it. And the reason all these IT companies, I believe, are lifestyle businesses because they get to a point they can't go past that. You can't run around. I mean, some people, there was a CEO of one of the mega dealers, and this was just so insane when he said it, that, well, an average, contract, the copier dealer for their end users about $150 a month, which is true, by the way. So if we can go out there and sell something for $1,500 a month, it's a no-brainer. And my response to that was, well, you would be absolutely out of your mind to run around and sell something for $1,500 a month if it cost you $2,000. And I think that the reality is the dealers haven't defined a couple of things. And I wrote an article about this and put it out on LinkedIn over the weekend. But, I had someone ask me, Ray, should I really be getting into this IT business? My answer was no. And then I wanted to elaborate a little bit on that. There was Charlie Munger said this, but he said there was a gentleman that walked up to Mozart and said, Mozart, I want to be a world-class composer. Can you help me? And Mozart said, well, no, you'll never be a world-class composer. The gentleman was kind of put off and said, well, what the hell? You were one when you were a teenager. He said, yeah, but I didn't have to ask anybody.
Hmm.
And,
That's
and I
good.
think that the thing that the print channel has never really determined was the why they're doing it. And that's always the question I throw back. Why do you want to do IT service? And if the answer is, well, because I went to this meeting and, I finally went to a ConnectWise meeting and listened to someone that told me I should get into IT, so I'm going to do it. Well, that's not a good enough reason. I mean, the why you're going to do something is based on the fact that you researched it, based on the fact that you're searching for the right persona. How are we going to build this? What's our stack going to look like? Who the hell's going to lead it? And, it's not a freaking hobby. And I think most of the print providers got into this based on a hobby and based on some pure ass nonsense from some of these consultants out there. And, I wrote an article not too long ago and I blame ConnectWise for a lot of this. I really do. I think ConnectWise had good intentions. And, when they bought a company called Continuum, they turned the ConnectWise PSA tool into this master service provider. And I think it was a disaster. I think they should have never done that crap. And so then they looked at this print channel and they got so damn excited about it and they've been excited about it for 10 or 15 years. They've had like 19 different people heading that up as a liaison between copy and IT. It's just a disaster. I don't care what they say. And they could stand on stage and they're going to say that our biggest customers are print customers. Well, what are you counting the revenue? Are you counting the revenue that they're delivering through IT in those offices? Because I would agree. If a print provider shows up in a room with 1,000 IT providers, he's going to be the biggest company, but he's probably going to be the smallest one in IT. So I just think we stand on stage and we put panels together. We lie through our teeth to each other. We try to make everybody feel good. We throw awards out like they're fucking popcorn. Did I say the F word?
You surely
I should have said
can.
friggin' popcorn.
Go ahead.
Maybe you can edit that out. I was on a roll, baby.
Yeah,
But
right.
I just think if we were just honest, if we were just more honest and we held each other accountable, we would be a lot more successful. But when you try to do something for 15 years and there's zero accountability to reality, how the hell you get improvement? And then you got nut jobs telling dealers are going to get a 37% EBITDA. That's just that still drives me crazy.
Ray, I'm with you. I think that there has been a lot of vendor-driven strategy, so to speak, for copier dealers and MSPs. And I haven't really talked about this too much recently, but you're kind of getting me fired up here. And one of the first things we observed with these copier dealer folks was they had been sold by ConnectWise. ConnectWise had hit them so hard. They were right to do it. They had probably good intentions, but we were watching their financials and we were saying, we never see a standalone MSP have such the low performing service department gross profit. Like it just doesn't happen. And it took us a minute to kind of realize, it's because they've outsourced their help desk and they've at the same time hired internally. And because the model that was presented to them from a vendor was, you should outsource your help desk. It's too hard for you to build it yourself. Just follow this. Well, suddenly their service revenue ratio was 46% of their service revenue. So their service department gross profit was just in the tank. And these people were so bought in, and God bless them all. They're all smart people. They just got the wrong input at the wrong time.
What's really amazing to me is that why would anybody, it took me to have firsthand experience when I spent that time with ImageQuest to realize this myself, but you can't outsource your first front line. If you're looking for a persona, you want the ideal customer, how in the hell do you go out as an MSP? Maybe you're in Chicago and you have a customer that drives a Lamborghini, is my example. And then you got some nut job down in Florida selling someone that drives a 1971 Ford Pinto, and they're both showing up to the service lane at the same time. And the Lamborghini's behind the Pinto saying, what in the hell am I doing in this line? And I just don't believe you can scale an outsourced help desk. And today, to be quite honest with you, help desks are becoming almost obsolete as we move more into AI. And you're going to see less and less of that interaction on a help desk to begin with. And we got people up there bragging about how they're going to build a state-of-the-art help desk. I hope it's all AI that you're talking about and not human capital.
We'll be right back with more. But first, here's a quick message from Bering McKinley.
Most MSPs are constantly busy, chasing tickets, projects, and fires. But without structure, it's hard to know if the business is really improving. Vision from Bering McKinley is the system that helps you work on your business, not just in it. It connects leadership strategy with daily execution. Vision aligns people, process, and performance, creating clarity and rhythm from goals to results. And the Vision app brings that structure to life, helping you create policies, track goals, review KPIs, and collaborate with your BMK consultant all in one place. Behind it all, Jetson AI, your assistant inside Vision, helps you find answers, generate insights, and take action faster. With Vision, you gain visibility, accountability, and measurable growth. You're not guessing, you're improving. Vision, Jetson, and the Vision app, your path from strategy to results. Start transforming your business today.
All right, let's get back to the conversation.
But, when you think about going out and finding the right customer, you have to also think about, are you the right vendor for the right damn customer? And so how do you answer that if you're outsourcing this crap? There's not a copier dealer in the country that would outsource the service on a printer. And quite honestly, after, me and Milton went through the process of getting off a master service provider or an outsourced environment and going internally, we really started realizing the importance of that, because you can't have these customers that you're charging 50 or 60, Milton's got customers that pay over 100 grand a month just for the services piece. So you can't have someone that's paying $100,000 a month for the services piece calling up some help desk. It's just absurd. And then the next call over, some MSP at some other town that sold someone, they're on there for $1,000 a month at best. And so I don't know how you take care of the customer, and no good service provider would do that. But they were sold a bunch of crap, I believe. And that's where, ConnectWise, in my opinion, was a fantastic PSA tool. RMM, fantastic. And they just got bogged down with this whole continuum thing, which I think continuum was a disaster when Tom O'Bravo put that into ConnectWise. I predicted that before it would happen. I thought of that could be a different strategy, but it seems to me that ConnectWise has, they're still struggling bringing out their new software. They're they talk all this AI stuff coming and all this, but at the end of the day, in order for anybody, whether you're a copier dealer or whether you're an MSP today, your future needs to be based on why the hell do they need you? Not why did they need you? Why do they need you now? And why are they going to need you in 5 years from now? And I think if people were honest to that, why, they would start realizing, holy shit, I got to change some things. I got to change some things quick. And doing some blanket stupid marketing program, mailing everybody in your town some kind of a flyer that says you do backup service or whatever the hell you're going to, or we're in AI now, call us, we'll make sure your printers are secure, and all this crazy nonsense. It's not going to help you. It's going to bring more noise to you. And the best thing to do is go back to my quote from Robert Stevens, put more money in your remarkability budget than your damn marketing budget. And your remarkability budget is putting the right people in the right seats and making sure you invest in the human capital. And quite honestly, when you were talking about the gross profit in the services in the print side being low, you're 100% spot on. And the biggest problem with that is the print channel has never accounted for the time of their technicians more than 40 or 50%. It's between 42 and 48%. Those are facts. You can look at the data. It's all out there. And it wasn't a big deal because the technician pool, they all basically made the same amount of money. There was no big swings. You get into the IT space and you got a server admin or a high-end IT guy that you're paying $185,000 a year to. That guy cannot be doing level 1 or 2 work. Well, in our industry, we got to hire this guy, and he's probably running around doing the wrong damn crap. You're probably not even accounting for the time against a real ticket, because they're not used to doing that. The only thing they ever accounted for from a technician was to and from the account and then belly in front of the account. And at the end of the day, if you do the math on that, it was like 46, 48% of their time. IT, you can't do that. They got to be accounting for 85% of their damn time. And I just think that has always been one of the big issues, because they're managing the IT business on the back of a print business, because you got a bunch of lunatics telling them, well, you guys already know how to do all this. You service customers, you have service centers, you can do all this. It's the same kind of deliverable. And I'm like, I scream top of my lungs, it's not the same kind of deliverable, and quit telling people that.
Yeah.
You got me fired up again, Josh.
Well, good on you. Well, I'll tell you what, I've got my own hot button topics, and what I'm seeing this kind of extension of a thread that hit me about 15 years ago when the managed services model came online. It was very much it wasn't what the clients were demanding. It wasn't what the MSPs were demanding. It was a vendor somewhere that said, hey, we invented this RMM. We'll make more money if we can sell MSPs or IT providers licenses. So all of the education around that model came from vendors. You're not aligned with a vendor. A vendor says, I have a product I want to sell you. Here's a model where you can go sell that thing. And so the story was written very incomplete. Even ConnectWise, Autotask, I really kind of used to hold them to task quite a bit that, okay, you sold them on the managed services model, pretty cool stuff. You got them the right tools, but you never taught them how to measure their success with it. You never told them what agreement gross profit was. You never told them what effective hourly rate was. And there was a period of damn near a decade where we'd come into an MSP and it's like, you're losing money on these contracts. And your only talk track is managed service good. I get money at beginning of month and I can pay my bills. And that felt really comforting. And they were told that your client, your MSP client, will love having predictable billing. Okay, those may be or may not be true, but you went from a highly profitable model of break fix and lots of projects to this recurring revenue thing, and you forgot all about the profit component. So I think there's a long history of this industry being driven by vendors telling half a story to get the client base, the MSPs, excited. And it sounds like that continued right in to the copier dealer folks saying, hey, and oh, by the way, here's Continuum, here's this outsource help desk thing, where it's like, yeah, that might make logical sense, but once we put a critical eye to the financials and the outcome and the client experience, does it still make sense? And I don't know if that's unique to our
Well, I would
industry.
always
Maybe
tell
that's the world in general. I don't know.
No, I will always tell the dealers, if you don't have enough intellect to build out a help desk, don't get into IT. It's the easiest piece of the whole damn stack.
Yeah.
Seriously. You're talking about a bunch of level one, and really the more mature MSPs don't even have level one on their help desk. They're right at level two, so they can expedite stuff.
Sure.
And they're so good at delivering the product into the marketplace that their help desk isn't getting overwhelmed. Of course, now with AI, they're eliminating a lot of the human capital involved in that. But I mean, seriously, I mean, we got copier dealers that are going into IT because they went to some stupid meeting and listened to someone that never sold a thing in their life and telling them, hey, yeah, you can go out and do this. You got all these customers, sign up with us. And the bottom line is, first of all, that's a stupid reason to get into anything. And second of all, I think that the dealers have not defined the why they're doing it. And quite sadly, I believe the ones that are, the few that are defining the why they're doing it are basing that why on what was going on 15, 20 years ago.
Sure.
Because, you know, what's amazing to me is when you listen to a lot of this, so the talk track around IT, it hasn't changed that much, except we threw in some flavor words like AI now.
Sure. Sure.
But if you think about it, we're still thinking of IT services the way we did to even 10 years ago. It's just ridiculous to me. It's completely changed. And there's nobody that really wants to talk about those changes because those changes are going to impact a whole lot of things. Software companies, help desk services, a lot of things are going to get impacted.
Ray, you know, I'm really glad to be having this conversation with you. We met with our buddy James down in Australia last week, and his episode will probably air before this one. He was also very, very adamant that the lifestyle business MSP is under a tremendous threat right now. He goes as far as to say, if you're not willing to convert into some sort of consultancy or advisory, then you should cash out now. Like, that's how dire he views the scenario. Okay, so if we all agree on that, what are you kind of seeing as, like, where does an MSP go? Where does a, you know, copier dealer or not, what is that offering? What does that delivery look like? What are they doing for their clients, or what could they be doing for their clients in the next 5-10 years?
I think it has to be consultancy service.
Mhm.
You know, the biggest hurdle will be that instead of, you know, if you think of any business, the highest cost are parts and people.
Mhm.
And I think what we have to keep in mind is as we get into a consultancy business, we're going to have a tremendous amount of cost for the intellect.
Mhm.
So we have to decide, what do we really want to consult? You know, if I think of some of my print friends, you know, if you have verticals that you're really, really successful in, maybe that's finance, and you're in there doing document management strategies with them and workflow strategies with them, and you understand the finance world, then maybe you should start thinking about doing an IT finance consultancy firm. And maybe you should be in there talking about best practices for a financial consultancy firm and how those best practices tie into technology, you know. But, you know, you got to be able to, you know, sit across the table from a prospect and say, in order for me to even determine if you're the right fit for me, it's going to cost $25,000. And when you say things like that to people, they just freak out, you know. And quite honestly, most of the IT services companies would have to make some major changes in their human capital structure to do any of this stuff. We both know that. Our friends in the print channel, the same way. They don't have the skill set to do this. You know, we're not going to take a vice president that's been selling copy machines his whole damn life and managing a bunch of people, and they could be really successful at that. But they're not going to become some IT genius overnight. It's not going to happen. Can they manage? Do they understand the business? That's fantastic. But the first thing you have to do, if you can really manage and understand a business, is surround yourself with the people that can execute. And quite honestly, I think we're trying to have folks execute on things they're just not capable of executing on. I mean, that would be as crazy as when I went down there with Milton, if he just, oh, hey, Ray, you know, you're in charge of the whole IT. What the, I don't know anything about that crap. You know, can I look at a P&L and scream about cost? Can I, you know, and all that stuff? Well, hell yeah, I can get into that big time. Can I help you with some efficiency processes? Well, sure. But I'm not an IT guy. And I think unless we're willing to bring in the right people, we're going to fail. And I believe the guy in Australia is spot on. And I mean, you know, if you look at my friend Milton's company, ImageQuest, and I interviewed him, he talked a little bit about this, but he's got a really big consultancy practice. When I looked at, you know, Impact Networking out of Chicago, you know, to me, they're the most successful IT services company in our space. But look at what they do. They sell a fee-based assessment to start the engagement, you know, and those fee-based assessments at Impact Networking average like $20,000 per assessment. And so, you know, when you can sell your intellect, then you can, first of all, you can become more profitable and you become more valuable. You know,
So
if a company is willing to pay for someone's intellect, then you're pretty much going to stay in the bus with them as long as you perform and what you're telling them actually is the truth.
Let's talk about impact a little bit. You know, and I think both of us have nothing but flattering things to say about them and their leadership team. They're all awesome. I remember it was about 5 years ago, and I don't know how long they were doing this before, but this one thing just hit me like a ton of bricks, like, oh, they're different. They had put on some sort of event, like down in McCormick Place, I think it may have been in Chicago, big venue. And it was like a leadership meeting. It was a business meeting. It had very little about technology. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? You guys look like me, a much bigger version of me, but you're talking management consulting, you're talking strategy, you're talking about motivation, you're talking about why people are in business and what they're doing. And I was just blown away that they were doing that. Do you know the type of event I'm talking about that they put on? Are you aware that they do this?
And they do. They used to do a big, they used to do a big event at the pier with one of them. And they do a lot of regional stuff now. They're doing a lot around cybersecurity. They have that fantastic company called Dot Security, which is a huge SOC center they built in Chicago. Impact Networking, and you know, I always tell people that when they ask me about Impact Networking, look, just go to their damn website. You know, go to their YouTube channel and just listen to their leaders. Listen to their salespeople when they're talking. These are well-educated, extremely intelligent people that have an intent. And I think that, you know, a lot of people don't know what the damn intent is, number one. You got copier companies running around trying to sell IT services, and the people that are selling it have no idea what the intent of the company even is or the goals. You know, we want to be the biggest IT service provider in the state. What about? It's just nonsense. But, you know, when you look at what Impact has done and what they're accomplishing, it's all based on intent. And more importantly, it's based on intellect. You know, Frank Kuko always put the right people in the bus, and that's going to be his legacy.
Yeah.
And now that company's in the hands of Michael Lepper as the CEO, these are young folks, and Anthony's there with them. These are young people that are passionate about helping end users with real problems. I mean, you know, our industry, what's the real problem? I mean, I still see these posts on LinkedIn. It drives me out of my mind. Yeah, it's a good thing this company bought the copier from me because they ran out of toner on a Sunday and I left my family's dinner and I brought it to them. I'm like, okay, well, you're kind of stupid because anybody that's successful would never do that. You know? And so plus, the print industry at the end of the day, right? And I've talked a little bit about this on a couple of shows recently, but it is so desperate because it's oversupply versus demand. And I would say the same thing about the IT space. There's way too much supply for the demand. So we're all out there just basically giving crap away, racing to the bottom. And we're forgetting, well, how do we bring more value so we can raise our damn prices? I mean, during COVID, and Josh, you understood these print guys, but during COVID, they were having sales. What in the hell? You got the biggest supply chain crisis in the industry's history, and the print providers are out there having sales. Buy from us, we're on sale. And I did an episode one time making fun of them. I said, all the people in your marketplace had a dream and they were wishing that you all owned car dealerships, and then they wouldn't have had to pay 40% over list price. They wouldn't have had to pay 30% more for a used car because you guys would have been giving them away. But, we need to do something, obviously. And it's not all doom and gloom, but the point of it is we need entrepreneurial spirit that's willing to look at this and say, why do I need to do this? And that why I need to do this needs to be based in reality, not some bullshit they went to some IT convention and heard. What's their strategy, and who's the human capital that's going to come in there and help them do that? A 24-year-old or a 25-year-old software company that's an expert on IT services? Probably not. Probably not even an expert on IT services, quite honestly.
You've said the word why several times, and one of the observations that hit me pretty hard as we started getting in with these copier dealers is that these are multi-generational businesses, and not that guarantees they're going to have a why, but there was a lot more intent around the success of the business. With an MSP, most of them really kind of fired up somewhere between 1999 and 2005, and so these are first generation businesses. And when we work with a lot of MSPs, they don't know, they're not able to identify why they're doing this. They're not able to identify what they want. And the idea of talking about perhaps selling the business is just kind of a really tough thing to think. And we hear a lot like, well, I don't know what I would do with my time. Right. But at the same time, they're not preparing themselves for a generation beneath them, either their kids or family. And so there's just this like 20 years of, flying in circles and just enjoying the view, which is good for you, but name yourself. Okay, I'm a lifestyle business. I'm not, and therefore this needs to be my strategy as such. It's that living in both camps that James kind of pointed out to me, the Australian gentleman, where it's like they have this identity crisis that prevents them from understanding why they're doing it and what they're actually going for. Does that resonate with you? Do you think maybe the copier dealers have a better understanding of why they're in business in general, MSP or not? What do you think?
No, I think we have the same issue. So, and you brought up a great point. So if I'm a lifestyle business and I accept that, look, I got the lake house, I got the nice cars, me and my family go on vacation, everything's kind of going great. Who cares? I'm in my late 50s. I could milk the cow. There's no more milk, and hopefully the cow will run out of milk in 5 or 6 years, and I'm the hell out of here. That is a strategy. Okay, nothing wrong with that strategy. Start cutting your cost. The last year you're in business, pull back on your service. Someone else will absorb it. Save as much money as you can, and just go off into the sunset. And if you admit that to yourself, then you will build a strategy to do that. The problem is what happens is they get around these crazy, cheerleading rallies, and they go to this thing, and now they're, oh my gosh, we're going into 2030. We're going to do this. AI is going to change our game. And they get excited for 5 seconds, but they don't put a plan together. They don't really think about what it's really going to cost them to do that. And then they forget all about it about 90 days from the time they went to the seminar, and they're back to being this lifestyle business that's basically not going to go any but retire one day. In the print space, one of the issues I have always contributed to some of the, I guess, procrastination and improvement, if you will, is the fact that, when the print industry started, these were entrepreneurs. I mean, they were selling stuff that people didn't even have. I mean, hell, when I started selling copy machines, I was selling them to people that didn't even have one or fax machines. What the hell am I going to use with that for? And so, you had to be creative. It was a different world. And those entrepreneurs were ruthless. They would, if they went into the financials and their EBITDA wasn't 20%, they're screaming and raising hell. They're probably telling the service manager, go get rid of 2 technicians or I'll do it for you. We're going to have a 20% EBITDA. And then as time went on, well, the companies built massive amounts of wealth. The families that are running these companies have massive amounts of wealth. We're in the second, third generation. I mean, the folks running these things are in their late 60s. They don't give a crap. What do they care if they make an extra $2 million a year when they're in their late 60s and they're already rich? So it's just we can wait a while longer. But even those, if the print channel would decide, okay, my strategy is I'm going to milk the cow and there's no more milk, then quit screwing around trying to be an IT service provider, wasting your time going to meetings. Just forget all that crap. Be a print provider till you don't want to do it anymore. Or call the guy down the street and say, look, I want to sell you my business. Here's my strategy. But I think that and that's the why. If people just would sit down and say, why am I doing this? And they're going to determine why they should do it. And if they don't know the answer, they better go figure that shit out. Why am I going to do this? And then once you decide why you're going to do it, the next thing is, how am I going to do it?
I love it.
How comes second? Why comes first?
Yeah.
And most people don't want to go through that process, or they think there's an easy path. They think, hey, I just went to this meeting in Orlando. Oh my gosh, this is so easy. I was talking to this guy. He's got this IT company. He's doing really successful. He's telling me about his deliverable. I'm going to do that. Well, then I'm going to say, okay, you're going to go and build some lifestyle IT services company inside your $50 million dealership that'll be absolutely worth nothing. No one's going to want it. And whoever wants to buy your print business, they're going to say, what the hell are we going to do with this?
Right. Yeah. Good observations, Ray. Well, I love it. You articulate so well the things that bounce around in my head, and I can't quite tie the whole thing together. So I really appreciate your ability to do that. Ray, what is, if you had to kind of, you've observed Milton, you've observed lots of folks, what are some common threads that you can pull from these really successful people to kind of share with us to say, because I think the why is huge, right? Obviously. What are some other things that you think, that leadership team should really zero in on to, if they've made the decision that I'm not going to be a lifestyle business, that I understand my why and I'm going to break my pattern? What should they be focusing on in the marketplace? What are you seeing out there that is a great place to say, here's a way to get reinvigorated. Here's a way to really match your why. What are you seeing out there? What are you thinking?
Well, I think once you determine the why and you're in the how process, then the next thing is, can I do it or do I need to get someone to do it?
Mm.
And quite honestly, I believe a lot of the guys that are successful either got someone to do it or they were able to do it. And we got 2 examples of that. So when I look at Milton was a guy that could do it. Milton literally was the sales guy at ImageQuest for a long damn time. And Milton was out there beating the streets, doing what he had to do, running a company. He had some partners with him that were really back into that. And, he drove that business. It was his strategy. It was his why. And the things that he could not do himself, he was quick to bring in the human capital that could. He knew that sometimes, oh my gosh, this is going to cost a fortune to do this. But he made that sacrifice to do it. When I look at Frank, it's kind of a different scenario. Frank's the same age as me. Frank's not a technologist by any stretch of the imagination, but he had a why and he understood we're going to do this and here's why. And then his how was to bring in the right human capital. And he started putting people in that bus. He started putting people in the bus for the CTO of the whole company itself, which is Frank DeGeorge. He brought in Patrick Layton to head up that IT business. And he brought in some very highly skilled people and he let them do their thing. And he didn't interfere with them. I'm sure he probably scolded them when he needed to. But at the end of the day, he brought in the human capital, and we're not doing that in our industry. And some people will say, Ray, you're crazy. Look at our guys and all. But there's you said it already. When you go to their meetings and when you listen to their leadership talk, there's a big difference there. And it's not that the folks that are in the print channel are all bad people. I'm not saying that. They're not all unskilled people. What I'm saying is, if you understand your damn why, you're going to figure the how out. And most of the time in the print industry, it won't be you.
Right.
It's not going to be you. You know,
Right.
I mean, I had a dealer owner ask me a question one time. He said, my son, who heads up our print business, wants to, head up the IT business. What should I do? And my answer to him was, well, go and fire your son. You say you're fired, and then re-interview him to be the head of the IT business. And I don't think you should be the one that interviews him. You could probably outsource that to someone that actually understands what it takes to run an IT business. But then tell your son, if he doesn't pass the interview, he doesn't get his job back.
Mm.
So it's either going to be, he's going to be an IT leader, or he's not. He's not going to do it as a damn hobby. Because what happens, and I've seen this in the print space, is that they go out on the right road and they have all these good intentions through this journey to be this IT company. But as soon as they run into an objection, as soon as they run into a problem, they run back where their comfort is. It's only human nature. So let's go out, just go sell a bunch of print. We'll get our number and the owner will stay off my ass. Instead of, no, we got to keep going. We hit this roadblock. That's when you got to say, okay, crap, maybe I'm not the right person. Maybe it's time to bring in somebody different. We got to make some damn changes, but we're not going to run back to what we know. And I think the print industry is too easy for them to run back to what they know, because it's so damn easy to sell print. Just go sell it. So they go sell all their print business. They get the revenue they might have wanted that month or that quarter, and the IT thing takes a back seat. And the other thing that made Impact successful is a big company. I mean, they have 700 employees. So when they go to market internally first. I mean, when Patrick Layton put that IT business together, the first customer was Impact Network. We literally have dealers today that are selling IT that aren't even on their own stack. It's insanity. And you've probably seen these folks as you consulted with them. They're out there selling all this, and they're not even on this. Oh, we don't need to go on the help desk. I mean, we don't want to do that. It costs too much money. We'll just go. That's crazy. Well, no, you need to. How the hell do you even know what your customers are going to experience if you're not experiencing it yourself? It's crazy to me. But we literally have people, I guarantee you that 90% of the people in the print channel that are selling IT are not even on stack, which is just mind-boggling.
Interesting. Oh, Ray, you're a breath of fresh air. I don't know if you hear that very often, but I really like how you're piecing these.
Not really.
Ray, let me ask you, where can people find you out there? This is really helpful.
Well, if you go to YouTube and just type in The End of the Day with Ray, I do a YouTube series there. I do a video just about every day, and I focus mainly in the print space. I talk a little bit about IT as well, and how in that transition part, a lot of just business stuff. There's a little satire in there. There's a little obnoxiousness in there. But at the end of the day, the goal was always to disrupt the status quo of how our industry consumes information. I don't expect people to agree with things I say, not everything I say anyway, but I do everything I can to make people talk and say, holy crap, if he's right, at me. If he's wrong, or be able to articulate why maybe something I'm saying is wrong. But, we've seen, it's just, I'm an old guy, so I'm cynical. But, 35 years in this business, you go to these, I'm just so sick of these stupid panel discussions that are completely insane. It's a waste of everybody's time that's in the damn audience. Everybody's scripted the whole damn thing. You asked me, do you want to go on my podcast? And that was it. We didn't have any kind of bullshit. You didn't tell me, oh, don't ask me this. And, don't say that. It was just two guys having a conversation.
That's right.
And I can't believe that our industry cannot have conversations that are determined to go where the conversation goes, not to predetermine where they're going to go, because it's ridiculous. And, we've been doing the same thing for at the same events, the same way. And we're all about innovation, technology, and change, but yet everything is exactly the same. I mean, other than the music at the event, because we try to be modern with that, and sometimes we're not even with that. But realistically, what's changed?
Right.
And if we don't change the mindset, then we're never going to change. And we need to listen to the younger people, not throw them out the room. And we need to have the younger people be able to argue with the older people. And if we stifle conflicts and everything's pre-scripted, how the hell are we going to learn anything? And I do appreciate the time on your podcast here today. I don't know, we probably went a little bit too long, and I do apologize if I said any bad words, but sometimes I get pretty fired up and I don't like to hold back.
Oh, Ray, I appreciate you not holding back and giving those real talk, that real thought. Definitely anyone who, if you stuck with us, give us a like, a share, a subscribe. That means a lot. Put some comments in the comment section. We read them, we respond to them. If you think Ray just nailed it on the head, or you think he's a whack job, either let us know. Same with me. If I just really missed the mark, let us know in the comments. And Ray, thanks for joining us. Everyone else, have a great afternoon or morning. Bye-bye.